Okay, so hello. My name's Sarah Boyce. I am one of the Django Fellows. Thankfully, Natalia has already explained what that means, so I don't have to go into it. I've been in the role roughly 6 months. And yeah, before that, I've been a Django developer. I'm a badminton player. I like to paint people. And I promise I'm quite friendly, so please come and say hello and talk to me if you want to talk about this talk or about anything at all. Yeah, and this talk is called The Hidden Gems of Django 5.x. And before I give away what that might mean, I thought it's important that I first cover what is 5.x, because people keep asking me if I mean 5.1, but I mean 5.x, I promise. So raise your hands if you've seen this diagram before. All right, the vast majority of you, that's good. All I've done is I've added a rough today line on it. This is to illustrate basically how Django feature releases work and how we support them. A feature release is every 8 months, and we go through a cycle for 2 years, basically. And 5.x will be 5.0, 5.1, and 5.2. So hopefully I've not lost anyone yet. But what's interesting, oh no, wait. So my first question is, which Django versions are you using right now? So I'm curious who's already using 5.1, etc. Please tell me your main project or the one that you've been using recently. Yeah, okay, curious. All right, so some people are already on 5.x. So there are a number of people who are using 5.0 and 5.1 already. Still a good chunk on Django 4.2. I'll be curious if this group prefers to upgrade from LTS to LTS, our long-term support releases. But yeah. And some who are on unsupported versions, which is a shame, but never mind. I'll pretend I didn't see it. No worries. Oh, door's getting higher. All right, let's move along. So, when I look at this, looking at this diagram, it looks like, 5.x started in December 2024, but not really. Actually, this diagram represents what we think you care about. So you care about when is it released and when, how long is it supported for. But in terms of the behind the scenes information, when we're working on it, actually we were working on Django 5.0 back in January 2023. That's when we started. And it gets released in the December. So there is a period of feature development, and then we have a feature freeze, and then from that point onwards, the only things that are going to go in are bug fixes based off those new features that were implemented, or security fixes. And so even though you might think, 5.1 was only released very recently, and so we're about halfway through, we're not. We're quite close to the end of the 5.x cycle from my perspective. Talking about 6.0 or 6.x is not that far away. So what's in it, right? What is included in 5.x, especially if I'm talking about that, it's basically done. Well, if you wanted to find out what's in any feature release, the main source and the true source of information really would be the release notes. And I'm sure most of you are already aware, but if you go to djangoproject.com and you go to our docs, it will take you to the most recent release, of the versions of the docs, but you can change that. There's this little widget. And you could choose to look at dev. You can look at the C basically what we have on main, and so that you can see the release notes that are also for 5.2 and they're under development. And so you can read them already, you can read them now. And you can read the release notes for 5.1 and 5.0, etc. And that should roughly cover what's in 5.x. And if you were to have a look at them, and thankfully I'm going to make this a bit bigger, the release notes are split up into sections. They always look a little bit similar. So this is roughly the 5.1 release notes, and it will start with the Python compatibility. And then we have a section of what's new in Django 5.1, of which that will have the headline features. So we'll put a couple of features and give them a bit more attention or a bit more, space than we give other stuff. And then everything else is whacked in minor. So we have this long section of minor features. We have backwards incompatible changes, and then the features deprecated and the features removed. So that covers essentially everything that we think is important information that you need to know, from a release. And we spend a lot of work designing these release notes and crafting them and trying to make them, give you the information that you need. But I'm really curious, do you read any of it? What do you read of those things? I mean, I will let you answer, but, based off my experience of upgrading, I certainly used to upgrade, see what breaks, and then check what was removed, and then go, You can select multiple, so... Okay, cool. I mean, there are certainly some hardcore people who appear to perhaps read everything if you're also reading things that you're not using. But that's only roughly 20% of the audience. It looks like most of you look at the things that we've drawn attention to, and then the stuff that's going away, and then the rest, perhaps you'll read, perhaps not. It's not massively surprising. But as I said, it's designed to give you everything you need to know, right? That's all of that information is, of course, you need to know what's new, otherwise you would never know about it. You need to know what's changed because that could impact you. But, is that everything you want to know? There's certainly a lot of information that we've chosen not to put in the release notes. And I've already gone through what's in, but perhaps you want to know about bug fixes. I'm not sure if you've ever noticed, we never talk about bugs on that page. They never happened. They don't exist. Django doesn't do bugs. Yeah. Optimisations. There's a lot of work that happens to make Django faster and better. And we also don't talk about that. We don't mention that such and such is now more performant than it was on previous versions. Docs, there could be brand new sections of docs, and I mean large sections. There could be new tutorials, new topics. There could be quite significant stuff that we've added in during this feature release, but it's not Django core, so it's not in the feature release notes, and you wouldn't know about it unless you'd stumble across it. And people, there's not a single mention of a person. I think we might say something generic about thank you, but there is no specific names. There's no, any of that information is included on that release doc. So perhaps you want to know, or perhaps you don't. But one of the things that I did was I had a look at all the commits that actually had an impact on the release notes, so on that section that you perhaps look at and you read, versus the commits that don't impact that document, all that other pieces of work that we're doing to make Django, better and for everybody. And it was roughly, and take this with a heavy pinch of salt, it's roughly, only 15% of the work that goes into Django is talked about at all. And the vast majority of the work with those bug fixes, those optimizations, any kind of cleanup, anything about the other pieces of work that we're doing It's not included, the docs, etc. And so when I'm talking about the hidden gems of Django 5.x, a lot of people are curious if I'm going to talk about, I don't know, one of those features that are perhaps already represented and maybe my take on it. But really, I want to talk about some of the things that we just don't talk about. Okay, so pre-warning to the people of the audience. I'm going to give you a screen reader experience about someone going through the Django admin. And when I play this video, I will also have some subtitles of what the screen reader is saying. And there's also going to be on the screen, it will show you the keys that are being pressed because you're navigating via keys. And there are some shortcuts that you can use when you're using a screen reader in order to better navigate the page more efficiently. And this screen reader I was using was called Narrator. It's a Windows tool, and these are some of the shortcuts. It doesn't massively matter if you don't know them when they pop up. This is just a cheat sheet so that you're aware of what's coming. This is Django 4.2. There are going to be some problems. I want you to try and notice them while they happen, and we'll see how many you are able to notice.
Link, Django administration, heading level 1. Site administration, heading level 1. Unavailable. No next landmark. No previous landmark. At 1, table, rows books, 9 by 3. Exit table, authentication and authorization, table, rows groups, 2 by 3. Exit table, at 1, table, rows books, no previous table. Exit table, authentication and authorization, link, authentication and authorization. Link, groups, link, add, column 2 of 3. Link, change, column 3 of 3. Link, users, row 2 of 2, column 1 of 3. Link, add, column 2 of 3. Scan off, loading complete. Add user Django site admin document. Exit table, username, edit, required. Add user Django site admin has finished loading.
Y. O. E. R.
Scan. Password, edit, required. Press space to edit. Insertion point before, scan off. Hidden. New line selected. Scan. Password confirmation, edit, required. Press space to edit. Insertion point before, scan off. Hidden. New line selected. Scan. Save, button. Scan off, loading complete. Add user Django site admin document, username, edit, optimisations, required.
M.
Add user Django site admin has finished loading.
All right, so one of the things I forgot to do was to tell you what I was going to be trying to do in the video. So when I started, I was on the Django app list page, the main page, and I'm just navigating it and seeing what's there. And then I try to add a new user. All right. So I'm curious if you noticed any issues, if you thought anything, because the main thing that you need to remember is if it's not said out loud, then it doesn't exist. That information is not available to you. So at the start, you've probably heard that you're supposed to have correct header structure, and you perhaps you don't really know why. But the main reason is because of this navigation. You want people who are using screen readers to be able to have this logical structure of the page that they can then go from one level and navigate accordingly. But on that page that we were on, there was multiple header level ones. There was multiple headers that are supposed to describe what this page is, which is kind of contradictory information, and it's not how it should be structured. So that was wrong. It didn't support this shortcut to go to the main section. So when you're looking at a page, there's quite clear sections, like there's a header, maybe there's a sidebar, there might be a footer, and then there's like the main section where this information is going to change from page to page, and you might be wanting to have that shortcut to go there, and so that you can use that. But I couldn't do that. I couldn't even move between those sections. That wasn't supported. Okay. I was navigating between tables. That was half working. Did anyone notice what went wrong? Yeah, it skipped a table. There was one table it just didn't notice existed at all, and I wouldn't have known that table exists. It's not possible for me to know that. For some reason, it didn't tell me about it. And then I tried to show that the password that was entered, by the way, was like 12345, or hidden, and it's not a valid password. It doesn't have like the required minimum length, so entirely numeric, etc. But all of that help text information was not alerted to me. I couldn't hear that, so I thought that was valid. Okay, I'm not going to go through the entire same demo, but I'm just going to demonstrate some of those features in a shorter form to demonstrate some of the things that we fixed. It's not necessarily all of that.
Header, banner landmark. Breadcrumbs, navigation landmark. Sidebar, navigation landmark. Exit table, add user Django site admin. Sidebar navigation, Act 2, table, columns model name add link change or view list link, 2 by 3. Exit table, authentication and authorization, table, columns model name add link change, add user Django site admin, add user Django site admin, add user, heading level 1. No previous heading. Username, edit, required. 150 characters or fewer. Letters, digits and @ /./ and / underscore only, required. Press space to edit.
Right, you get the picture. Oops, sorry, I got too excited. No.
Header,
No.
banner landmark.
There we go. So some of those things are fixed. There was only one header level 1, right? I was able to navigate between sections. I was able to go to the header, to the sidebar, etc. When I was in the sidebar, I was navigating between tables because that's how we list our apps. And it didn't skip any, which was nice. And, when we was on the form, it was able to say the help text information. It was telling me the information I needed to know when, I was filling out the field. So it's much better. The shortcut of Q was not supported, but it's progress, it's getting better. I want to draw attention to a piece of documentation that's in progress. So Thibaut's been working on an accessibility contributor guide in order to help us as contributors make better decisions when we're working with things like the admin, and to know how to test it and know how to have some empathy for people who are using the web differently to how we use it, so that we can hopefully not only make things better, but not introduce new issues as we go along. Who likes the Django docs, out of curiosity? Not everybody, but almost everybody. Yeah, we take a lot of care of the docs. There's this kind of ethos that if docs or it didn't happen, and we spend a lot of work on it. I might have to read this because I'm not sure if you can see it, but we got some feedback about the Django documentation that that it's really difficult to navigate through the docs, and that this person was quite frustrated by it, and they posted that it's very annoying, and everything is explained by example, and actual reference overviews are hard to find. And they go on, but the main thing that they're saying is, I just want to see for every class an overview of its member functions, what goes in and what comes out, and which type everything is supposed to be in an exact, unambiguous way, like most other documentation of anything else ever. I don't want to read a book when I quickly want to find something. Fair enough. And this had some interesting kind of discussion afterwards about what this user was meaning when they're talking about the docs. But the thing is the docs is not a stationary thing. They adapt, they change, we can improve them. And we do quite frequently. This is a screenshot of the docs from Django 4.2, and I'm going to show you from 5.1, and I want you to try and notice the difference, and it's going to be subtle. Can you spot it? Yeah. So pretty much all of the code references in the docs now have these source links, and if you click on them, you will get to the definition, on GitHub for that branch also, so that you can actually read the code of the thing that you're describing. So as the person said, they just want to see exactly what goes in, what comes out, etc. And if they want to, they can just click the button and read the code if it's too verbose and full of examples, etc. As they were saying, and we're making that easier for people to get a better experience from reading our docs. Of course, we don't mention that in the release notes because we don't talk about what we do to the docs, and it's still again part of the things of what you do see is changing and what you don't see. And one of the things that I want to part of the frustration of the feedback is it doesn't quite appreciate that people spend a lot of work and a lot of time trying their best to make this as good as we can for you. And if you do have frustrations or feedback, please work with us to make the experience better, because there are many different perspectives and ways we can make things better, and we're willing to try different things. This is another graph, which is something that I would be surprised if anyone's seen or knows what this might be. Raise your hand if you think you know what this is. So this is a screenshot from what we get outputted from Django ASV. So we have a way that we track Django's performance over time. And one of the things that I really like about this graph, and you probably can't see, but I will say, the blue line, the line on top, that is Python 3.10. The red line, which is quite a bit further down, is 3.11, and then this like purpley line, which is just a bit underneath that red line, is 3.12. And so the main thing you should notice is just by upgrading your Python, the performance of your code gets better generally. So I encourage you with everything, getting onto the latest version usually gives you benefits that you might not be aware of. And it's one of the things that we notice with, when we track the performance of Django over time is just, see, Python is getting faster. And this is a pretty graph because this is something within Django where you can see, and this is the perfect thing, is that over time when really it's not really changing, we have ever so slightly squiggles. With each run, we do it takes a reading of how long that benchmark took, and we see that over time. And then you notice that there's this jump where it goes down, and then it continues with that over time. So something happened, and then it got faster, which is great. It's also quite significantly faster. I've highlighted it here. But if you can't read, it says that those benchmarks, one became 38% faster, another one 28% or 29% faster, and the other one was about 13, 14% faster. So fairly significant. And those were to do with like roughly 2 commits that happened together. And again, we don't talk about that. So when we do a piece of work that might have quite a significant impact, it's not mentioned, it's not something that It's not information that many people have access to. And it's a lot of work. And the other thing that I want to mention is with all of that, and I was talking about all those things that we do, I also didn't talk about, the people who are doing it. And if you went into that ticket, which was about this performance change, you would see this really beautiful collaboration that happened between Anthony Shaw, who raised the ticket, and Marish and Simon, where they were discussing what they need to do. They were sharing different code snippets and trying out different examples. And eventually they created the change that had that quite significant impact. And it's a really nice piece of collaboration of the community of these people who are living in completely different places who, made Django better. And it's not unusual. Almost every change is a collaboration between multiple people who live all across the world and are working together to make Django better. And with almost every change, it may not even be an individual person who's taken that ticket and put it all the way through across the finish line. Sometimes it changes hands, that somebody did something that got it one step further, and then somebody else took over and took it that other step further, and then there were multiple reviews and all these other people who were, perhaps they were on the ticket and they said something that was interesting and it helped us came to the right solution. So there's a lot of people that are in the work that you don't see. And there were 364 contributors to Django 5.0 and 5.1. It's a lot of people. It was really hard to fit them on the screen, and you can't read any of that. And it really, all of these people are what makes Django work. I mean, Natalia was talking about the work of the fellows, but we don't do it alone. It really, the people who do the bug fixes, do the optimisations, do the feature work. It's the community, and it's amazing what they're doing, and all that work that is also just in that 84% that we never talk about. It's done by real people. And if you don't already know, really, the Django community is the best hidden gem of Django. There are many people who are using Django who have not really experienced the community that are behind it. And if you're a first-time attendee, I hope you've gotten a taste of it. But really, this is what I think makes Django awesome. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. That was a really wonderful talk. You said several times that there's that 87% of the commits that don't make it into the release notes. Some of what you talked about seems really important to me, and I would really like to know about it. Are there plans to extend the release notes to add that information, or to disseminate that in some other way?
Thank you, Lacey. So a part of what I wanted to do in this talk is I wanted to spark the idea as to whether there would be appetite for that, because a lot of this information, the question is it the right form for it to all live in there? Or perhaps we should have something else that we can also provide to add that information. It's not uncommon that release notes do include bug fixes. It's not uncommon that they also include contributors or ticket numbers, etc. I mean, on our monthly release notes, we do have a ticket link, which at least if you click on it, you could see who was involved in the ticket, and then from there you can see the PR, etc. So there are probably very small tweaks we can do without a lot of effort. But it would be something that I'd be curious, if you're at the sprints, we can talk about whether it makes sense to include other information in, or whether it's better for a blog post or something like that we should provide to the community, because it's a shame that there's a lot of work that is not visible.
Oh, you.
how are you not overwhelmed by just the amount of information? And these issues, you're showing, 300 contributions, and each of these threads can go 10 to 80 deep.
Mm. Oh, I mean, it is overwhelming. Some tickets are easier than others. When you're with those ones, at some point you just need to commit to diving into that problem. I mean, the main issue that I have when there's a list of PRs that need reviewing, and this is what I'm referring to for ones that are trying to resolve like a nasty ticket, and which ones are going to be intense, and sometimes you're kind of waiting for the courage to just appear one day that you will then go for it. Breaking it up, trying to push it a little bit forward, and it doesn't have to be the fellows. Also, there are so many, like everybody in the community can help us to test it, to check it, to confirm that this is the right solution, and check our work, check we haven't missed anything. It's very easy to miss a comment, and it's not uncommon that a contributor comes along and goes, oh, I think, we haven't addressed so-and-so's comments that was put, 10 years ago over here, etc.
Any more questions? No, he
Well, Lazy asked my first question. So
Oh.
I think the accessibility work is phenomenal and ongoing. And I guess it's like, it's just the same question, really, but how do we celebrate those people who have come in and started doing all that work and making sure that they're visible? And we've added all these new accessibility features, but we don't tell anybody about them. How are they going to know?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that's worth telling people is we do have a social media working group. And I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I think they've been trialing out something called Feature Fridays, where they try and highlight a feature in Django. And there's no reason why we can't have, and my alliteration is failing me, but accessibility autumn. Yeah, thank you. I was like, on days or something, to highlight different stuff. And there are also, I'm pretty sure there are, I wouldn't be surprised if there is an accessibility awareness week or something where we want to try and celebrate it, and we could specifically design that we're going to try and put more information about these contributions, or highlight the people in the team, or there are definitely ways that we could try and address it, and there are already forms available, such as on DjangoProject.com, we can put something there, but with the team itself. But I think we are trying to highlight it a little bit more in the release notes. Yeah.
Any more?
Thank you very much for the talk. I learned something. I was thinking about also other things that maybe are less obvious for this audience, like, for example, the amount of new translation on the documentation that for every release we have. There are spread community that work on that. It's less obvious for English-speaking people, and also other things that we are not measuring right now. Like, for example, we started using measuring performance, but not the impact of power consuming. Thibaut did a great talk about it. So maybe we can start measuring other things. And the last one is the spread of using of Django across the world. Maybe because someone started a Django Girls workshop, I don't know, in some places far away, and we can start measuring how it's used across the world, also to help this local community to have a translation, something like that. So
Yeah, 100%. As you said, there's, when I did the counts of commits into Django, it's only a very small slither of the story, and it's just a measurable slither of the story, right? As you said, translations is something that is, again, a huge amount of work that is being done, and it's being done mostly invisible to a lot of people who are perhaps native English speakers and have that privilege. And we should try and highlight, the work that happens so that people get the appreciation and recognition that they deserve, that it hopefully is able to recruit more volunteers who are perhaps interested in it. And we do have some tools available. The release notes are one thing that we could do, especially if we've got a new language that we're supporting or something. But as I said, with the social media team, with the blogs, it would be great for us to try and figure out a way that we can keep reminding the community about the hidden work that is going on. Django Girls is a beautiful initiative, and making people aware that there are these workshops and there are ways that Django is empowering women and non-binary folks around the world to get involved in Django is certainly a thing that we're very proud of. And it's a community-run event, and as I said, it's the community who really is the special thing. So to celebrate those people is great. I mean, I really like Django Chat for that reason. Also, it's another tool where we get to put a spotlight on different community members and give it a way that it lets everybody knows about the different things that people are involved in. Thank you.
This isn't so much a question as a request. Given the survey showed a lot of people are on the LTS path, a thing that I've certainly go every time it happens is I'm reading the 4.2 release notes, and then I remember I have to also read the 4.0 and 4.1. So I just like to throw the suggestion it would be helpful if the LTS releases included a reminder at the top for people on the LTS path to at least here's the links to the 4.0 and 4.1 release notes as well to read for backwards compatibility and new features.
I think that's a really good idea. And we're doing 5.2 currently, so come to the sprints. You can raise a PR, no problem.
I never thought release notes would be so exciting, but they're such an interesting topic. Do you think we can work towards a kind of universal pattern for release notes because I think Django's documentation has set standards that have been picked up elsewhere. People don't always say it, but you see things elsewhere that are in Django, and setting it out as not just here are our release notes, but this is how we do it and why we do it, and this is I took a photograph of the kind of template you showed because I thought it expresses that really well, and I think that would be. Do you think that would have value?
Yeah, why not? I think it's always good for us, at the very least, to be able to recognize why we're doing it the way we're doing it, and it is because it's the information that is important. It's what you need. It's got no unnecessary, and I mean that in with heart. Like, it's got no unnecessary information. And it would be curious what other similar kind of people who are also on time-based release, for example, how they are structuring their release notes and how they represent this information, and whether there's stuff that they're doing better or we're doing better, and to understand, if this is working for us. It's very hard to know. A lot of it's the same template that gets used each feature release. It's not like we're often changing it. So it'd be curious for us to, at least as a bit of an audit, to double check, is this still suiting the community that we're serving in the best way, and can we still justify how it is, and if we're happy with it, then great. It's the process we're at least comfortable with. So.
Any last question? Awesome. Give it up for Sarah Boyce.